things Major League Wiffle Ball. I'm Eddie Kalegi. Lots to get to in this show. Before I do want to let you guys know of some stuff coming to the channel. I'm going to have basketball highlights up for sure tomorrow night of that last Game 5 that I've been talking about for quite a while. There's going to be live baseball on here on Saturday. Probably some highlights as well, but definitely a live game Saturday night. And then Sunday, I'm going to have the NPCS Race 25 up. Hey, how you doing? So, the thing I do want to talk about, obviously, is the show, Major League Wiffle Ball. We've got to talk about the first two series of the season. First one was a big one. It was a matchup between the Mallards and the Cobras, who matched up last year, obviously, in the 2017 championship game. With the Mallards coming back after being down 2-0 and defeating Drew Davis's Cobras. And the Cobras coming back with a 5-man roster this year. Andy Duran, Jack Krause, Mitch Marvin, Zach Hopman, and, of course, Drew Davis. So that's the Cobras still with those 5. On the other side for the Mallards, you've got the same guys in the championship as well. Those 3 being Tommy Coughlin, who returned to lead the new Mallards to the championship last year. Noah Dabrico, who had a big season on the offensive end. And Steve McPeak, who, although his bat might not have been there, his defense was pretty good. So let's just recap that series. Mallards coming in, looking for the second straight championship. Things weren't great. New field, weather was bad. There was so windy. And we are going to look at some pitches from both Drew Davis and Tommy Coughlin here. Both teams were struggling mightily in the first inning of the season. And we're going to take a look at some of that. I'm sorry if it's blurry, but I will try if I can. So, let's watch this. First pitch by Davis, way off the plate there to Coughlin. Another one, slider, I guess that was just bad. And that one in the dirt, walking the bases loaded to start the season is not good. And then, of course, here doesn't help. Bad defensive miscue, and this does not look like the Cobras team that was so strong a year ago. And it's already 2-0. Then Davis started to settle in. Nice strikeout on the fastball of Dabrico. McPeak swinging and missing. And Tommy Coughlin strikes out as Davis strikes out the side after the first 4 had some issues. On the other side, Andy Duran takes a really bad pitch. Coughlin, it's not that his pitches weren't working. It's just with the wind, sometimes because we know all about his breaking action. There's another example. But he just couldn't control it in the wind, or he just didn't have the best grip on it. And both of them walked the bases loaded. Then that pitch was nasty. And then here he's going to get a very lucky swing from Andy Duran to end that inning to make it a 2-0 ball game. So, of course, this was a very exciting game. But the big deal was the injury in the bottom of the second inning that we're going to have to take a look at. And we're going to watch this right here. Andy Duran gets into one. First encounter with the monster wall. It's not good for Steve McPeak, who leaves the game. And that's why the Mallards, I think, dropped 2 or 3 in this series. And it's because of this injury that he suffered. We're gonna watch this again. Watch McPeak. He's going to go over towards the wall. Times it. And that's when he goes with the one hand. And he really bangs his elbow. I don't know what the top of that wall is made of, but that is hard. You could tell he was hurt after that. And that was a bad one. But Andy Duran is the first to homer over the monster wall. And the Cobras ended up taking Game 1 rather handily in the end. 3-2, 7 strikeouts from Drew Davis. Game 2, however, Tommy Coughlin came back with a walk-off homer. And then, Game 3... more the same. Tommy Coughlin not his best. And 5-4 was the final as Drew Davis settled in as the game went on. Another time, and this is what the problem could be with Drew Davis. it takes him a while to settle into games, and if you can't do that, especially in a league where home runs are common, that could be a serious issue. And Coughlin, who was just absolutely on fire last season, might have been because of the weather, but Coughlin was just well off the plate, and once again, he was very lucky by that swing and miss by Durand to keep it from being an even bigger inning. So that's my take. I think both teams are going to settle in. The Cobras, I think, are going to be good once Drew Davis can get locked in. Mallards could be in trouble, depending on how long McPeak is out, because then they might only be playing with two guys. They might be playing with Coughlin and Dabrikow, which, I mean, first off, I mean, if you had only two guys, you had to go with the two-man roster. That's a pretty good dynamic duo, if I do say so myself. But that's still not great for this team, and could be some problems heading into the future for the Mallards, depending on how long McPeak misses, and they're sitting at 1-2. Dabrikow, though, 4 home runs in this opening series. Coughlin went deep a pair, went deep twice. So that's my take on that. As a Mallards fan, I definitely want to see them start winning games, but playing against the Cobras, that was surely tough. Second series, Southern Seahawks, who just struggle mightily a lot, and then the Wildcats. And something I do want to say about the Seahawks, which might be why they got swept here by the Wildcats, who, by the way, were only playing with 2 players, one of them brand new to the league in Zach Petrouk, and then the legend Kyle Schultz. They don't really have an ace pitcher. Every other team, you just know who the pitcher is. It just pops right into your mind. Kyle Schultz for the Wildcats, Daniel Schultz for the Eagles, Warder with the Predators, Tommy Coughlin with the Mallards, and Drew Davis with the Cobras. It's really tough to decide when you get to the Seahawks. I mean, Alex House pitching, Ryan Gable. One thing that you can say is that Mike Stachelski hit very well in the series, and that was the one bright spot they had. And the offense was okay, aside from this game 2 when they got annihilated and only scored a run. They actually got some hits off of Kyle Schultz. Even Kyle Garricky got on base with a hit. So they're going to be good, but the Wildcats impressed me. Only 2 players. Petrouk was terrible on the mound. He is a offensive player for sure. But Kyle Schultz settled in quite nicely as the games went on and was getting his usual strikeouts. Got up to 200 homers, which is quite the feat in this league. 200 career home runs. He reached that mark in game 2. And once again, once the Mallards were down to just 2 players, they looked beaten. When the Wildcats played an entire series with 2 players, they seemed just as strong. But also that Mallards were playing the Cobras, who are the favorite for the championship, probably. And the Seahawks, who are, I'd hate to be mean to them, but they're by far the worst team in the league. So, that's what I got to say about that. Seahawks are definitely going to have to work for every win they can get this season. As for the Wildcats, they're much better than I thought they would be, and they could be on track for something a little better. So, that's about a wrap. One thing I do want to preview, your last series. You've got the Predators, who have lost in the playoffs repeatedly, still have never made it to the championship game. They've never made it to the World Series. They'll try to finally do it this year. Alec Warder and Brendan Russell look to finally reach it. And then, on the other side, you've got the Eagles. Of course, their shocking loss last season to the Mallards in the NL Championship. Daniel Schultz will be back strong. He's got a good pair of players, including Ryan Pracht, with him. So, that's about all I got to say in this episode. So, next episode, we're going to dive a little deeper into comparing swings and who is the best hitter through the first series of the season and how have they been seeing the plate well. And we're going to talk about that, along with diving into the Eagles-Predators series. That will probably be next week. Hope you enjoyed. Remember to like and subscribe. This is Beyond the Meadows, the show about all things Major League Wiffle Ball.